Now, in the last few years, if you keep up with the sports literature in the running and speed and explosive type training world, I'm sure you run across articles dealing with agility. Now, agility has been used so many different ways. I think we have to kind of take a look and really describe and explain what it is. So then we know specifically what we're working for and what we're trying to improve. Very simply put, agility is the ability to change direction while in motion. I'll repeat that. Agility is the ability to change direction while you're running, while you're in motion. So in other words, while you're running, to be able to execute a change in direction. You got to be moving, and then you make a change. Now, how you make the change is really what contributes to whether you're going to be quick or slow. So we find many coaches doing agility drills, as they call them. And you're probably familiar with some of these. These are some of the ladders that are on the floor or off the floor, and you have to step over them and, going as fast as you can for time and so on. Well, these can be very good drills, and as the coaches say, they're used to develop foot speed. Foot speed has nothing to do with agility. Foot speed is great if you're going to be moving your feet. If you're a drummer or whatever, a dancer, get those feet moving fast. But for agility, if you want to change directions while you're in motion, it's all in the hip joint. You want fast legs, not fast feet. And we'll take a look at some of these agility drills, so to speak, in a later little podcast. But right now, let's deal with the general overall characteristics. So for agility, we really have to develop the ability to change direction. Not just take umpteen steps in a certain manner, but to change direction requires a cutting action. Cutting action is a quick change in direction. You have to plant a leg and then step out in another direction. So it's both a technical and physical type skill. It requires quite a few different actions all at the same time. And that's why it's hard to execute. Now, when I take a look at most of the players in the major leagues, let's say, for example, in basketball, in football, football, especially for receivers and defenders, they require tremendous amounts of agility. The ability to change direction while they're in motion. They have to do this. If you're on defense, to keep up with the opponent. If you're on offense, to get away from your opponent. So we need these abilities. Baseball, you need this ability when you're fielding sometimes, for example, and a ball takes a crazy bounce. You got to be able to change direction very quickly. They're getting the ball off the, let's say a long fly ball that bounces off the railing or off the wall in the back. Well, the ball doesn't always come off as predicted. So they have to be able to make changes in the way they're moving and running in order to pick up the ball. So this ability is needed in many different sports. Basketball, if you can't execute this ability to cut and change direction very quickly, you're never going to be a great player. Now maybe if you got the height and stand under the basket, you can get by with this. But typically for the guards that bring it down, they really need good agility. They're the ones that have to be able to get around and get by their opponents, especially if they want to set up a new play. So even when you take a look, if you look at most of the league games today, you'll see a few outstanding cutters, people who can change direction very quickly. And it's all due to their ability to execute that cut. So that's really the bottom line. Agility, in order to change direction while in motion, regardless of your sport, really depends upon your ability to execute a cutting action. And we'll look more closely on what constitutes a good cutting action and what physical and technical abilities you need in order to execute it, and execute it well. And the better you execute it, the quicker and faster you're going to become. See, agility is really related to quickness. If you have quickness, you have the ability to cut. You have agility. This is a very strong component of these characteristics. So quickness is composed of these items. And to a certain extent, explosiveness is related. The more explosive you are, especially in terms of executing that cutting action, the quicker and faster and more agile you're going to be. So don't worry about all of the drills. We'll take a look at those later. Drills are not going to make you very agile. But learning how to cut will give you the ability to be agile and get away from your opponent or stay with them or whatever the case might be. It'll give you the ability to execute what you have to do in your position in order to be great, regardless of sport.
I'm going to keep this rolling. I want to ask a question and then have you answer it. We can just cut it together. Can you teach someone to be more agile? And if someone already is very agile, can they become even more agile, super agile?
Yes, to both. Agility can be taught. See, teaching that cutting action is ultra important. Now, for more information on this, I'm kind of glad you raised that question. See the Build a Better Athlete book. It has 2 chapters devoted to agility, and one is specifically on how to execute the cutting action, and then exercises that are specific to the cutting action. So by doing these exercises, you improve your ability to execute the cut, and in some cases, even learn how to execute the cut. These are specialized exercises that duplicate exactly what occurs in this cutting action. See, and even if you have a good cutting action, the more you improve these abilities and your technique of execution, then the faster and faster you can become. There's really no limit. And don't forget, we're talking about sometimes hundredths or thousandths of a second. That's all it's going to take for you to be more successful. So read those 2 chapters. I think they'll make a big difference. They're in Build a Better Athlete.